for anybody who wants to invest in Jamaica, I would always suggest to the person, come to Jamaica first, just tour the entire country. Just take some time off, come to us to St. Elizabeth, to Treasure Beach, enjoy some nice time on the beach, go to St. Thomas, see around where you really like it. Just don't come to Jamaica and then I want this. Before you build anything, before you plan really, maybe just test it for 2-3 months and see how it is outside your vacation time.
Hello Throppers, and welcome to another Throp-X clip. If this is your first time visiting, my name is Winthrop Wellington and I am the host of On Deck with Throp, the podcast where we have meaningful conversations with people from all over the world, all about Jamaica. And you are now watching a clip from my annual Jamaica Investment Conference, Throp-X 2022. And I had the pleasure and honor of having Martin Zivkovics of Austria Farms in St. Elizabeth. And he is from Austria in Europe, and he moved here a few years ago to start farming in Jamaica. And he gives a very riveting presentation on his experience in farming, the opportunities in farming in Jamaica, and a lot of encouragement to young farmers out there about getting into the industry and getting into the business. And he is a very entertaining, but also a very knowledgeable person on this subject matter. And of course, he is somebody who migrated here from another country, saw a great opportunity in agriculture and really went after it. He is a multi-year winner of Farmer of the Year here in Jamaica. And I think the perfect person to speak about farming in Jamaica and again, the opportunities of being in the agricultural business here in Jamaica. If you have any further questions or want any further insight into Martin and his farms, the contact information and also his socials are in the description below. Without further ado, please enjoy this agricultural clip from Martin from Throp-X 2022.
So Martin, the first thing I want to point out is that you're not a born and bred Jamaican. So how did you come here, love it here, and start flourishing?
The surname is pronounced Zivkovics, So for Jamaicans, I would say to pronounce it, you think you're my office.
Scribish. I won't forget now.
I'm originally from Austria. I came the first time to Jamaica around 20 years ago. I turned 40 this year. My dream was always to become a general manager of a 5-star hotel. So I graduated from Hotel and Tourism Management School in Austria. In Austria we have mandatory army service. So after I finished my education, I had to join the army and I was there for 9 months. After that, I just wanted to go out in the world and I was working in London for 1 year as a room service waiter. Then I was working in Switzerland, in St. Moritz. So I wanted to really work in each department at the hotel. So further on that I would be a general manager who have basically worked in every department. So, growing up, having the time, you meet your first love in Austria and then certain things not going in a certain direction. And I was so heartbroken. And we had a Austrian pioneer and he was actually very close to my heart. He became my friend. This was one of the first Austrians who came to Jamaica, was Heinz Simonitsch. He was one of the founding managers of Half Moon in Montego Bay. And my grandfather and his mom were good friends, right? And, they said, okay, Martin is so heartbroken and he has to get away from the girl in Austria. So they said, okay, send him to Jamaica. So I came to Jamaica. It was really like that, and I will never forget. I arrived. It was like a forever journey to me now, thinking back, because at that time the flight connection was very bad from Austria to reach to Jamaica. I had to fly through Holland, Amsterdam, and the airline I will never forget was called Martin Air. They still have it, right? So I reached to Jamaica, I think around 10, 11 o'clock at night, and they had a driver from Half Moon pick me up. and they carried me to Half Moon, and I was there checking in, and then the golf caddy carried me to the room there, and reaching there, I felt like I'm on heaven on earth, you know. I mean, this is paradise for me, even though it was at night. And you know, when you have the time lapse, and because Austria is right now 6 hours ahead, and I couldn't sleep that night, and I woke up at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I walked out to the Half Moon beach, and I saw the sea, and I heard the waves. It was really, to me, the most impressive moment. And I said, that's the right place for me to be. But I had to go now to the restaurant to work there. And, you know, my Austrian manager there made me serve bread and water. And I just came as a manager, you know, and, you know, it was like, to me, I literally after the shift, I called my father and I said to him, listen, going right back to Austria because I'm not going through this, right? But he said, okay, just stay for 3 months and just settle down. And, you know, and then I started to see other departments at Half Moon, and the guys started to be friendly to me, but I still didn't like it, right? But then I met a Jamaican girl, right? At that time, and she was as an intern, and she invited me to come to Kingston, right? And I heard so many bad stories from all the co-workers about Kingston, so I took a plane, and I flew from Montego Bay to Tinson, and she carried me around in Kingston, and I was partying there, and then I said, okay, I start to love it, you know? Yeah. However, now for all the people from overseas who planning to come to Jamaica, I was only on a kind of a tourism visa at that time, student visa, to just stay there because you do need a work permit to work in Jamaica. So after the 3 months, I had to go back to Austria. But we
apply properly.
To go back to Austria, and I just left because, you know, it was just a period of time where I came, but because my heart was so close to that girl and we stayed in contact, and I continued to work in Austria at a different hotel, and then we kept in touch, and she came to visit me in Austria, and then, you know, I met some more Austrians, and then I got a job at Sandals. After a year, I came back, I got the official visa now. Yeah, you know, and then I started to work as a food and beverage training manager at Sandals Grill. So, yeah, that was the only position they had available at that time. But for me, it was not really that important because I just wanted to be in Jamaica, right? So close to the girl.
Right. So, you know, you had a lot of management experience in hospitality and tourism.
Yeah.
Now, what intrigued you about the world of agriculture, farming, being out in the hot sun?
So the point what I'm just making, working now at Sandals, I started to realize that there is such a great potential to have consistent supply for the hotel sector, which I was not used to in Europe, because, you know, the hotel sector is a total different level. It's by seasons in Austria. Winter season, summer season is very slow, but Jamaica is right through the year. So we have here in Jamaica, I was so impressed about the quantities of volume of fruits and vegetables, meat, wine, you name it, what those hotels consuming. And got the opportunity, I got a promotion then to Sandals White House. I opened Sandals White House. There's a food and beverage junior manager now. And we had suppliers there. We had 900 guests at that time, and the suppliers wouldn't come in with the goods. So it would be 8 o'clock in the morning. We would expect like 200-300 kg of lettuce. And then they wouldn't come at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. We called them, and then they said, okay, they soon come. 11 o'clock came, they still don't soon come. And then 12 o'clock reached us now. The guests, we had to serve them something. The chef was going crazy with us. And then they came finally at around 1 o'clock. And out of the 300 kg they were supposed to carry, only 50 came. So this was the challenge now opening the hotel, and after like 6-7 months working at White House, I said, you know what? I'm going to do a drastic change now. You know, I'm going to stop working for the hotel, but I'm going to start my own business, right? And then I want to supply the hotel sector, right? So that was basically my starting point. I was not planning definitely to doing farming in Jamaica, I can tell you that much.
But you saw an opportunity that you could capitalize on and really sustain yourself. So in terms of now deciding where you were going to settle on in terms of the land and which type of crops you were going to grow, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so to add to that story too, now, now coming out of the hotel sector and then going to the farmers, I mean, those contacts which I made at the hotel, and then I wanted to just buy and sell, so that was that. But then I realized for me trying to do that, it was the same problem what I experienced at the hotel. So I did that, like I had some bad experiences. I would go around, I would buy some goods, or I would order something from some farmers, but then I would say, okay, I'm coming back on Thursday. Then I come back on Thursday, all the goods were gone. The other suppliers who were there, they would say, don't sell nothing to this new guy because he's taking away our business. At that beginning, I thought that Jamaica is difficult for a overseas person, especially as a white person. Now they would say, don't sell nothing to the white man. But then over the years, I find out now that Jamaica is not a racist country, right? It is more that they would call you like a brown girl or a fat man or whatever. So I was just.
We have a lot of nicknames.
Yes.
Like big foot, one leg, big ears. A lot of nicknames.
So to really understand that, as an outsider, you would really feel hurt at the beginning, which I did. But then at the same time, I realized it's not like that, and you just have to stay strong. And I said, listen, if I want to really pursue this goal to be one of the most consistent supplier to the hotel sector, there's no way if I don't start farming for myself, right? And my first worker, who was actually always on my side, who saw me having this experience with all those people, he said, you know what? I have a land from my mom, which was a quarter-acre piece, and I said, just buy me 2 bucks of cantaloupe, and we're going to plant it for ourselves, right? And this was exactly around 15 years ago now. And
which parish?
In St. Elizabeth, so the closeness from White House to St. Elizabeth, that's why I actually ended up in St. Elizabeth, which is called the breadbasket of this island. And this is anybody in Jamaica who opens their fridge door, you will find something most likely from St. Elizabeth in your fridge,
You should. If you're not, you should find something that came from St. Elizabeth. So, okay, you had good connection in terms of getting the land up and running. But in terms of now formalizing that business and making more connections, with
the land now, over the years, I can tell you, it's not that easy to get the land neither. So the land is not just waiting for you and so forth. It is really something which took time, and over 15 years now, I mean, I started with 1 quarter-acre piece, and we have now over the years gone to close to 200 acres. But this is not just from one day to the other. It's true. You meet families, you meet people who you do business with whereby, and then, people will approach you if you want to lease from them a land. And what I found out over the years, that people are willing to lease land to you on a longer term contract. So it's not just for 1 year or 2 years. They want a longer security, that if you, same like how you were talking about stocks, that you have a sure income, especially for people who live overseas, the foreign Jamaicans. And then you would do like a 5 or 10 year lease contract with an option to purchase it down the road, But for me, over the years, I learned that it's also very important that the people who come to you and want to lease you the land, that they also have the papers for it. So that is...
we saw something in the news recently the other day about land being sold to people and who owed. It was a big deal. So that's a good point.
So there's, I'm now a Jamaican citizen, and naturalized Jamaican citizen. And I have to tell you, it was very moving to me when I become a Jamaican citizen, because, in Austria, you're not really allowed to take a second citizen unless you apply for a special permit. And I had to do that because as a member of the army in the past, they're saying you cannot take, maybe you're selling out your secrets of the army, and I'm not allowed to join the Jamaican Defense Force now, but I have to continue to be an ambassador for Austria in Jamaica, right? But I'm a naturalized Jamaican, and I can tell you, no matter how many things we did, and while we're growing the company and how much people we have, up to 50 people employed, and you can the people who also supply us, I think it's a connection of close to 1,000 people who depend on our company, But the fact is, it was really difficult because every 2 years I had to apply for a work permit, and every 2 years, no matter how much investment we already did, the immigration and the process to reapply for the work permit, I felt like that. This is just on 2-3 people hands now that it cost around 2,500 US. I think now it's gone a little bit higher for 2 years. And for me, I just felt a little bit insecure when you apply for that, because if somebody decides not to give you the approval for it, you have to pack up and leave. And over the years, I've spoken to many ministers about it to make that easy. I understand that there are a lot of people who want to come to Jamaica who just don't want to invest, who just want to linger around and don't really bring no growth. But for people like myself who growing the communities and who doing things, I think we should do certain things a little bit better. And I'm definitely vocal about it,
For sure. That's a very solid point to take to our Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, and I think there's one other thing.
And also the Ministry of Social, what's it called? The Ministry of Work.
Labor and Social Security.
And Social Security, yeah.
Okay. So in terms of the crops that you've chosen to do, give me a list and tell me why are they the best?
Well, the reason why we have chosen we are watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew, cucumber, pumpkins, you realize all those fruits and vegetables, those are vine crops, right? And they're doing exceptionally well on the south coast because we get the least amount of rainfall on this island, and that's why those vine crops are doing well. Right, we call them vine crops because they're running alongside on the ground, right? And then we do Irish potato once per year. We can do that in Jamaica. We do onions as well, and then we have outsourced papaya from some people all the way from St. Mary and Trelawney, because we cannot grow that on our. We can grow it, but they're doing better in other parts of the.
It would be on the north coast, and in St. Mary it would be over to the east.
Yes, and then we have, it's established over the years. We have around 6 pineapple farmers who grow for us pineapples in the areas of St. James and Ginger Hill, called Dunkley River, right, which was up in the hills.
Hilly
terrain for those. Yeah. So the reason why we're doing that is because the hotels over the times, some hotels have decided to go into a contractual agreement with the suppliers as we are, which is good. We're doing like 3 and 6 months contracts with the hotels, but we have to ensure that we supply the goods during this time. We locked in a price, but the hotels only buys from us during that time. And that was one of our points when I won the first time the National Champion Farm Award, that contract farming is the way to go in Jamaica. And we have farmers who plant for us Irish and onions for the time as well, So it can only grow, the agricultural sector in Jamaica can only grow from a community perspective, and that everybody has to go in the same direction, and that everybody knows to play their part, And I think that I always call it, when I do some posts on Instagram or Facebook, so you can follow us for your listening on @AustriaJamFarm. I call it the revolution of agriculture in Jamaica, right? Because I will never forget when I won the first time the Champion Farm Award, they were saying, but wait, this man don't look like a farmer, right? And the impression over the years, I have deep respect from a lot of farmers who have done exceptionally well in Jamaica, in St. Elizabeth, all over the island. But farmers in Jamaica are in general very humble. They are not outgoing. They're not making no big fuss about it, what they're doing. And a lot of those farmers have sent their children to university. And a lot of the big managers right now in Kingston of certain banks and insurances or doctors and lawyers are actually from farmer families, right? So I think I always congratulate and I have deep respect from all the farmers in the past here in Jamaica, because it's unbelievable with the input what they have and what the tools what they used to do the farming, how they were able to accomplish so much in the past,
I want to touch a little bit on GMO and organic fertilizer. Tell me, what is it that you do and what are some of the trends in the industry that you wish were not happening?
My over the years now, and I'm saying 15 years now in farming, I've learned a lot, but what I have realized, and maybe I'm sometimes too vocal for certain people, so first of all, farming, agriculture in Jamaica is everybody business. Right? We tend in Jamaica to put everything in a political side, and sometimes it's too much political certain sectors. But my point is that agriculture, everybody have to eat fruits and vegetables, so it is everybody's business, right? So sometimes when certain sectors is everybody business, right, we cannot look on political disadvantage or advantages of certain sides, because we have to go in the same direction. So we had a famous saying that, when the watermelon on the outside is green, but when you cut it, it's red inside. So, in Jamaica, we have the labor right and the BMP, so it's two colors,
And the field
so
is orange.
Yes. So I combine that everybody have to go together. But we have a lot of announcements over the years in the agricultural sector. And after the announcements, you don't hear nothing again. So Winthrop went recently to one of our opening, because we have gone recently all alternative energy, what we operating our refrigerated warehouses. And, we don't make announcement before the projects are accomplished. So the difference to Austria and many other people who are in the agricultural sector, we make the announcement when we already accomplished the project, Action, yeah. So in other words, we put, how do you say, the money to the mouth, or what's the saying?
they put their money where their mouth is.
Exactly. So we have so many announcements, and I'm not even listening to it anymore in Jamaica, because we just everybody coming on the agricultural train, trying to go jump on it. But at the end of the day, I see so little result sometimes. So we have to highlight those companies and those people who are really accomplishing things. So, but beside that, now for people, that's why we're here at the investment conference. When we speak about agriculture, you have to live agriculture every day, right? And if you're not planning to really put a work into it, and if you just want to dump some money on somebody because you want to invest or something, I would suggest you to contact those people before who we spoke about it, to go in the stock market. But agriculture is much more than just investment. You have to live it every day. If you go into livestock, there's really great potential in the agricultural sector in Jamaica, but you have to be a part of your investment. So you have to really follow it up at least every other day.
Why suppose I have $10,000 and I say, Martin, I just want to invest in your company, and you just report to me and tell me how it's going?
That's a good point. A lot of people want to do that, but then I would say check the latest from Sajiko or something, because I cannot guarantee that you will get your money back. And that's
But you're doing well. You have been doing well. Your track record would also show, you've won the Champion Farmer of the Year. We can look at all the audited stuff that you've done over the last 15 years. So why can't I just put the money into you and...
Because, as social media came along the line over the years, because, you have never seen anybody posting anything when people are sad or crying, and when there's sometimes destruction. We are prone to natural disasters in Jamaica, with hurricanes, excessive rainfalls, with breeding loss, with theft and so forth. But, we try to avoid sometimes to speak about those topics, but there's really a lot of challenges which we face. But it's actually during the time while we were prepared for COVID, because, farmers face every single year a certain kind of destruction or a certain downfall. So when you kind of prune and prepared for certain things, we were not so devastated during Corona, because for Austria Jam itself, I had tried to prepare. We always prepared for a total destruction, and that is in agriculture the fact, because it can happen to us from 1 second to the next. Yes, we have no storage capacity, but I'm thinking back like 3-4 years ago, we had a rain which lasted 3-4 days, and it totally washed away the entire farming production. And because we farm today, we plant for fruits which coming in 3 months from now, and then every 2 weeks we plant again, and everything is just a constant ongoing thing. So when you just have a destruction during that time, it takes some time to come back.
Well, talk to me a little bit about the new trends or new things in terms of infrastructure. We hear about hydroponics and these greenhouses, and you just mentioned the warehouse space. So tell me some of the things that you have instituted to help your business grow.
Over the years, first of all, it was the warehouse space is something very important. My first refrigerated warehouse was a 40-foot container, refrigerated container, which I bought. But then because of the health certificates which we need for our customers and certain kind of policies and standards, I started to build a storeroom, a facility. And now we have capacity. We continue to add on. And now, if just for the listeners to imagine, we have a capacity now of around 6 40-foot containers, refrigerated warehouse space. So if you put 6 40-foot containers beside, that's our capacity, what we have now for our fruits and vegetables. And that is really a lot of help, because we can really reap and store our fruit. So I'm hearing recently now that a lot of people just want to go to build refrigerated warehouse space, right, where farmers can store the produce, or they go out there and store. But to me, the number one thing is still that you have a market first before you produce, So it's not just to store up the things, because during COVID, a lot of fruits and vegetables were stored up, and we can fact this, and for the diaspora people too, Jamaica has absolutely no problem to feed ourselves. We have by far we can easily feed Jamaica. But we need the hotel and tourism sector to really take away most of our goods. I would call it by 20% is local market, but the rest of our production is 80% going into the hotel and tourism sector. So the tourism sector is really the driver of the agricultural sector in Jamaica. And for anybody who thinks differently, they can check with me with the figures, Yeah, but we need the tourists and we need the hotels to really understand. I'm also a council of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association. So I'm always lobbying and talking to the hotels that it is very important for the hotels to understand to not buy from whoever is the cheapest supplier on a weekly basis. Because if you want the cheapest supplier on every week, some hotels have it like on a bidding platform where you can send in your prices, and then every week they decide whoever's the cheapest bidder will get the bid. But a watermelon takes 3 months to come, a pineapple takes a year, a papaya takes around 8 months to come. So, and my best point is that you cannot tell your worker this week, you working, and next week I have your neighbor working because he works for $500 cheaper Jamaican. So, we have to really be mindful to each other when we do business, and agriculture is one of those sectors which needs the support of a consistent market, but the hotels also need the partnership from us that we are able to supply. So if we find that to have that connection of a partnership, agriculture sector can grow, and it also cuts down the breeder license theft to a certain extent, because, when you have items to be sold for a lesser price to a certain extent, but when the goods are scarce, then if supermarkets or hotels buying from whoever is the cheapest price, they don't ask the question where the goods are coming from, even though it's supposed to be. But supermarkets, hotels, or so forth, it needs to have a certain standard. But Jamaica, as we have our cultural advantages, we have some cultural disadvantages where people just can get up. If you're a dentist or a lawyer, you need to go to school. But if you try to supply somebody, you just can get up one day and just start to supply. You just need to register your business. Or if you sell even the people on the roadside, as we say, we want to support the people on the roadside. I believe that even the people who sell on the roadside needs a certain type of framework to have certain type of standards what they're selling, because where do they wash their knife? When they cut up the fruits? Certain standards.
Municipal corporations who try to regulate in terms of where they're placed and that sort of thing. So you're mentioning some valid points, but of course, culturally on the other side, it's like, oh, I just doing a small thing, and we find excuses sometimes for them. It's like, just give him a blight. But a Martin need to have all them certificates.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's one of the things I know the local municipalities in all the parishes are working on. A question came in for you. If you currently have land and want to lease it, who's responsible for clearing the land to get it prepared for farming? Is it the owner or the person who leases it?
Well, again, who plans to lease it, the person. I would love to see if I lease a land which is close to my area. I want to see first if it's potential for me that I can do farming. Suppose it's 80% rock stone on that land, I can't plant anything. So it would be perfect for those two people to really do that individually on the individual case. But if I would be the person who owns a land and wanted to make my land more attractive to more people, I would clear it first myself, and then I'm gonna get a better value for my land eventually,
Like if you were selling a car, you want to wash it and clean it out and make it look brand spanking new.
Yeah.
In terms of testing the soil, is that facility available in Jamaica, and where?
There are various facilities, even the fertilizer companies, they have started to offer that, to do soil tests, in order that which kind of crops you could grow. But I always, I've learned so much over the years in Jamaica. I always use the old time people, in the areas. If you know that, I don't know, yam, for example, grows very well in a certain area, the possibility that you are close by a yam farmer, that you will be able to plant yam, will be very high, So I think sometimes certain people planting certain crops in certain areas where they have not really tried anything before. So if area is good for melon, you should try to plant melon if you have a market, but don't plant Irish potato there, because probably it's not coming, So you have to use certain kind of experience to check around what's happening in the area. My best example is actually coffee. We all know Blue Mountain coffee is the best in the world, right? So if I'm planting coffee in St. Elizabeth right now, probably I can get to grow one little coffee tree or so forth, but the whole flavor, the whole reaping process and so forth, I'm sure you should try to do it close in the hilly areas.
Cool.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right. But okay, Martin, so you're doing well in farming. The previous panel was about, companies listing on whether the junior or the main stock exchange. Can we expect you to be listing in another couple of years?
My answer to that is that the best managed companies in the world, right, and the most successful ones are not listed on no stock markets, right? So I'm thinking about Throp-X, which is one of the largest berry producers in the world. They are a family-owned company. Thinking about the largest beef production company, they're not listed. I'm not planning to do that, but you have to think about it, that some companies sometimes have to list on the stock market, because probably when kids are coming further on and you have outsourced management and the owner probably cannot continue to do it, and then probably it would sell out can share out to the families and so forth, and of course for financing. But I believe, like how everything in farming is growing little by little, right? So I cannot speak for $1 and then it's suddenly $3 for now 300. It take 15 years for my company to grow now from half acre to 200 acre. Now for me, it's more the plan to streamline everything, to cut down on expenses and capitalize on the volumes what you produce, right? So I believe more in the slow growing but steady growing, So, I don't think we have anything in plan right now to go on the stock market,
All right.
Yes.
So at this time, I'm going to open the floor to some questions. Ready? He has one. You want to project, and I'll see if I can hear you clearly. Ready?
So the Irish potato question on the imported goods is a very, very important question, and I'm happy you asked that question, sir. You see, in Jamaica, we have certain seasons for certain items, right? So there's a season for Irish potato where we just prepared right now. We're going to plant this year around 40 acres of Irish potatoes, and we're having around plant 35 acres of onions, which we're planting now at that time. Now the onion we are going to sow a little bit later. But those Irish what we planted last week, they are going to be ready around February, March, right? Which we're going to reap, and then we're going to put it in the storage facility, and our other farmers planting for us doing that too. But then we have the storage maybe around for 3 months, 4 months. But then there's a time where we in Jamaica just cannot have it for the entire year, right? And that's, for example, on the Irish or onion. So at the time where we have it locally available, thank to the Ministry of Agriculture, they know that we're farming, so they cut out the import during that time, right? So where it helps us to really get to sell our local produce and have those Irish at that time. But there's a time then closer to the end of the season where we have limited local Irish available, where the price keeps on hiking significantly. So you would have maybe Irish at the beginning for around $70, $80 a pound, but by the end of the season it's going to reach close to $150, $180. And then the local people start to cry that the price is too high, right? Even though we would love to continue sell it for that price. And then we just have to bring back the balance with imported goods. So I'm a strong believer in local production, as you know, that we farm those goods. But there's a certain time, even as I have mentioned, the hurricanes or rains or anything where certain crops being somehow destroyed or just limited to have the demand. When the tourists come to our island, you need to imagine that. Can you imagine you go to a hotel and you want to eat a salad and there's no lettuce, right? Or you want a tomato and there's no tomato. Now they're going to start to quarrel about it. They come all the way from the United States or from Europe and want to eat a tomato and there's no tomato at their hotel. And the first thing the tourist is going to do is going to write it on TripAdvisor and saying that what a bad service that hotel is. So, sometimes, and a lot of people, I think it's a lot of misinformation too, that, sometimes we make the news on certain things that we import too much, but it also have to make sometimes the case that we have sometimes too little supply. Some people may say now that, okay, then why don't you produce more, right? But we can only produce to a certain extent, and we can only store up to a certain extent. So it have to have the right balance, I have to be honest to myself that when cantaloupes are scarce and I have my customers who I have to serve, and other hotel supplier would call and saying, listen, do you have cantaloupe? And I don't have it, and they need it, and they have to import it, So I cannot say, no, don't import anything because, we cannot import. We have to just have the right balance. I believe for the balance and to have the supply and demand covered, because we don't want the prices to go too high, and we would just want to have a steady price.
It's a very insightful response, actually. All right. There was she actually had her hand up.
Great. Yes, yeah. But a really basic question. Okay, I'm not a Jamaican national, but foreign national. I want to come to Jamaica. Where do I start? You don't want my money to invest. You told me I should see the persons before, right? Where am I starting from? What is the first 3 steps? Where do I get my markets? Where do I make my connections? What do I do? How do I know do I want to do this?
Okay, you see, that's a very good question. First of all, you have to decide yourself that you want to stay in Jamaica, you know? So I would want you to stay in Jamaica, you know? But the second thing, now we have Jampro, for example, which is Jamaica promotion.
Visit aspect.
But instead of, I think your real question is if you want to go into agriculture, right? And you want to start that business, right? Where do you start? So first of all, you would want to really find out first where you for yourself want to be, you know? So that is to me something that I ended up in St. Elizabeth. I could have also ended up maybe in St. Mary or in St. Thomas or anywhere, but I think back to my original point was that the community where you planning to be, you know, I wouldn't expect it that you just come in. You must have a certain type of connection or a certain type of passion, right? You don't just come in because recently one Austrian couple contacted me and said they wanted to start to live in Jamaica. They love Jamaica so much. They have been to Jamaica 5 times and they're planning to build a house in Greenville. And you know, for those ones, I'm not going into further details right now. For those ones who know a certain area in Westmoreland, I said to them, that's quite dangerous. You know, why are you on? But then they said, okay, we know a lot of people in that community. They're very friendly to us. And I said, okay, before you build anything, before you plan really, maybe just test it for 2-3 months and see how it is outside your vacation time. And then you realize where you're going to send your kids. I'm not sure if you have any kids, miss, but if you have a family and so forth. So it have to really be the whole package. You know, for anybody who wants to invest in Jamaica, I would always suggest to the person, come to Jamaica first and maybe make a month or 2, just tour the entire country. Just take some time off, you know. Come to us to St. Elizabeth, to Treasure Beach. Enjoy some nice time on the beach. Go to St. Thomas. See around where you really like it. But just don't go to come to Jamaica and then I want this.
And see which company are doing that can probably see. Maybe they're not existing with such a or the cap markets, but just reading and hearing about different companies that are doing well in the different sectors would help.
Just to finish that, my best example is that while I was working in the hotel sector, we had the greatest chefs coming from overseas, from France, from America, from Spain. And some of those chefs, they disappeared overnight at the hotel because they had their wife or their girlfriend and they didn't really like it. So the chef had the job, but then the family was unhappy. The kids didn't have a good school. And then from one day in Beaches and Grill, I remember we were looking for the chef and he left us overnight. So he didn't say it to anybody and he just fly out because his wife was unhappy. So it's living in Jamaica is not just to come here. You have to love it. You have to be a part of the community. You have to be a driver for the people around you. You have to make the people respect you and you respect them too. Don't look down on nobody because you're from overseas, and be a part of it, and then you will be surprised what will happen to you. You know, it happened to me and you know, I love it, but just take your time, you know. But I'm happy to welcome you at our farm. Come visit the farm, you know, we show you around.
Hi, again, my name is Mark Millward. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut, the Jamaica Diaspora Show, West Indian American newspaper. So after I leave this event, I'm going to be going to an agribusiness conference in Washington, D.C. Now, today, it just so happens that the Honorable Pernell Charles, the minister, is holding an event in New York on food security and the Jamaican perspective. I got 2 questions. I was kind of distracted, so I wasn't keeping up with the products that you're delivering on your farm. I just want to know how many acreage do you have, what your products are, and do you experience farm theft?
I've seen in the charts. I've been to our farm one time so far.
What balls were about? With that kid around, I didn't know they are. What's here? And how?
Martin, the moderator inquired of you, I believe, about whether your produce is considered to be organic or inorganic. I'm not sure you did answer that question.
Okay, the organic question, thank you for reminding me. I never remember on that. So organic farming is very, very important when it comes to certain kind of lifestyle and certain type of produce. On our part now, organic is challenging to have is working now. The organic fertilizer does not really work for our produce to be consistent of the supply, and even with the spray what we apply, we're trying to reduce it. But when it comes to consistent supply and when it comes to consistent growth and having the proper produce being produced to a certain type of standard, right? I don't think that the substitute product is not developed yet to can really give us the security for me myself to say, okay, we're going to switch to organic fertilizer or to organic spray, because really and truly it's a business, agriculture, and if I plant out an acre of melon and I need a certain amount of pounds of melons, I need to do everything to our ability that we get it, But I believe in small organic farms. Like, for example, I know there's a restaurant right now here in Westmoreland, in Bali Retreat. He has a food to table thing. He grows everything on his own farm and then serve it to the guests and so forth. So in the smaller purpose, organic farming, I'm all for it, right? Even in your backyard farming. But when it comes to bigger things, but what we don't do, we don't put no substitute fertilizer, no substitute sprays to make the fruit sweeter. So I have stopped that because I think there's no better thing than our local sunshine to make the fruit sweet. And the people who are actually eating the fruits have to also understand sometimes we get the rainfall, right, 2-3 days before reaping, and a fruit or a vegetable is like a human being. We turn off the water like 3 weeks before reaping. So in order to get the sweetness, but then 2 days before reaping, rainfall, we have no control over the rain, and then the fruit suddenly just takes in all the water. And then when we cut the melon, then the consumer said, oh my God, Martin, your melon is not sweet. But the sweetness, we have no control over it,
Okay, so well, I'm from St. Elizabeth, so I could attest to the whole, people raising their families on farms. Do you think it's saturated, like the whole, is there still opportunities for people in terms of even supplying to hotels? Is that like a saturated just right now? Or say you have half an acre of land, what are the opportunities? Like, what would you advise someone who say half an acre of land who want to start something? Like, what would be good to start?
Very good question. The market, I say, is never saturated. When I started, I kept on calling a hotel, and the purchasing manager keep on telling me, call me with some other goods. I'm getting 10 calls every day for those items, but I just never stop calling. But the fact is, you can plant. First, you check the market, what you want to plant, and probably get in touch with somebody like myself or somebody who you think who's in your area. And then I could advise you, even the radar person who could say, okay, what's good to farm, where there's a high demand for it, or where there's something. But the key to me for farming is consistently. So if you have a 4-acre piece or a 1-acre piece, I wouldn't recommend you to just plant that entire acre with tomatoes. I would split it up in 4 slots of tomatoes, so you have 4 different times when you have the tomatoes coming, so you have a ongoing market. Because even as small as the higglers or the market people, they like you as a farmer if you always have it. Same like a hotel, so they will continue come back to you, because as soon as somebody don't have it, they go to the next farmer. But if you continue to have it all the time, that's the key. But again, small little bit. Don't spend too much money at the beginning. Just gradually grow, you know. But we are happy. I'm happy you come back now to Jamaica and thinking about that. We need people like you.
Okay. I hope it's a quick question. Have we a cupcake time?
I'll try and make it quick.
Thank you. And it's certainly commendable that you've made such a mark in agriculture here in Jamaica, and also congratulations on so forth. But I realized that over time there's been a cultural shift here in Jamaica where agriculture doesn't seem to be a prestigious or sexy career path for younger generations. And I'm wondering if you're experiencing any of that in your hiring experiences. And if so, are you affiliated with any educational outreach program that will promote and foster agriculture for the younger generation so that they themselves can see the opportunity you saw coming to Jamaica, but did not see it as a viable career path?
Very, very good question, and thank you for asking that. So first of all, when you say I'm about looking sexy, you know, if you look at me now, you know, I can open my button if you want me to do that, but that's a fact. But I totally agree with you, and you know, it's part of the cultural shift, because you know, in Austria or in Texas or in other countries in the world, you know, that the farmers driving Benz and Audi and even Ferraris, you know, so the communities or the people looking up to farmers in other countries. In Jamaica, people used to look down on farmers, or they just being a part of it, same as I say. But I do believe if we have these challenges definitely present, right, where young people just find it more appreciated to even become a taxi driver, right, or certain kind of other professions. So we have a lot of work to do. So with a new Minister of Agriculture who is young, and even the previous one who was there, it already started to shift that too, because if you have a very old gentleman being the agriculture minister, it's kind of boring right away. But we ourselves as farmers, we need to really show to the rest of the country that farming is not boring. But I'm happy that we had the ladies here from the banking sector, and we need people maybe from the insurance. We also need to continue to work on the framework. So a lot of young farmers over the years have reached out to me, where some of them just find it too risky to go into farming, because probably their mom or dad just have one land or one car, and the bank is asking them to go use that car or that land as the security to get a loan to do farming. So I think one of my points, what I always have been saying, we need a meaningful agricultural insurance, which can be used as a tool to secure a loan. And I know that certain policymakers will now maybe say that is already available, but I'm saying we don't have it, that it's meaningful. So we're talking about that there's a farm insurance which can cover for loss. So a young person cannot risk their livelihood, and we have to understand that. You know, yes, the diaspora, we have some people who is very fortunate, but there are people who start with 1/2 acre, one land, and they cannot risk all that one thing what they have to let their child go into farming and then lose it all. Because you don't go in a casino and play everything on black or red. So all of us have to continue to pressure the policymakers and to continue work together to create the framework for young people going into agriculture and have a success for them. Because let me tell you, if we don't have the young people to go into agriculture, I'm concerned about who will feed the country down the road.
What?
Right? But, and you know, the fact is, as I said, it was positive in the past that there are a lot of farmers have sent their kids to the universities and make them become doctors and lawyers, and as much as that is appreciated, but the reason why sometimes they did that is because they don't want their kids to experience the same hardship what they have to go through. So we have to really outline that the farming thing is consistent. As again, I have 2 boys, I cannot force any one of them to go into farming, right? And I'm sure that none of us who have kids could do that. But I think we need first to really create this framework to be meaningful, you know? So, and only that now people will look up, because again, there's so much to talk about it, but I have so much experience, but I will never forget. And it was a one-of-a-kind experience, right? I went around 12 years ago to a club in Kingston. At that time it was fiction, right? Usain Bolt was there, and all the famous people in Kingston used to party there. And I was there with a friend, and I saw lots of beautiful looking ladies, right? And you know, we are a little bit more outgoing, and I went there, and I went to a group of those girls, and I said, okay, how are you doing? You know, you guys like it here? And they were like, oh my God, where are you from? And what you do? And I said, okay, I'm from Austria. And then so those girls were saying, oh, you must be working for a phone company. You work for, I'm not calling any name or anything, but you're working for one of them. You're from overseas. And they were so excited. And I said, I'm actually from St. Elizabeth, and I'm a farmer, and I farm melon. And you know, as I mentioned that, I saw those 4 girls, as beautiful they looked, they were like, the interest totally started to go reef all around. And even though I look good, in my opinion, they started to shift their interest. But I can say, you know, the unfortunate thing for those ladies was that my BMW was parked up outside, right? And probably they had to take a taxi home, you know? So we can change that, and that is a cultural thing. So I'm saying we have to speak about it, you know? But real life gives you the best experience, but it's true, you know? And we have to uplift our farmers.
Wow, it's a good thing you had a BMW. But there are new programs coming on stream, for example, even at UA and UTech in Kingston. And I have friends who have done like food engineering or being food chemists. So some of those programs are becoming more popular, and people are actually staying in Jamaica with them. So those are some avenues that are coming on stream. Martin Shishkovich, got it right? This, maybe the food connection, it works. Thank you so much for your insightful debates that you gave us today. And, you know, of course, we're happy to have you as a naturalized Jamaican as well. Let us make him feel welcome for his presentation to the reward.
You just watched a clip from Throp-X 2022. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more, click right here. Or right here.